Welcome, little listeners, to tonight's bedtime story on our magical podcast, where dreams take flight and adventures are as big as your imagination. Tonight's story is about a little girl named Jenny who believes in magic, especially the magic of a very special fairy who cleans up her room each night. But sometimes the most wonderful magic isn't found in sparkly wings or glittering wands. It's found in the simple acts of kindness we do every day. So find a cozy spot, snuggle up with your favourite teddy bear, and let's discover the clean-up fairy together. Jenny's room was her favourite place in the whole world. The walls were painted soft yellow like sunshine, and twinkling fairy lights hung around her window. Every corner was filled with treasures that made her smile. "Mr. Hugs," Jenny said one morning, dancing around her room with her favourite teddy bear. "Isn't it amazing? Look at how neat everything is." She twirled past her toy box, where all her wooden blocks were stacked perfectly. Her dolls sat in a neat row on their pink shelf, their dresses smooth and hair tidy. Even her drawing table was clean, with all the crayons sorted by colour in their special box. Everything's perfect again. Jenny squeezed Mr. Hugs tight. He was a bit scruffy from so many hugs, but his red bow tie and kind button eyes made him the most special toy she owned. "I know who does this," she whispered to Mr. Hugs. "It must be the clean-up fairy. She comes at night with her sparkly wand and magic dust. That's why everything's always tidy in the morning." One Saturday morning, Jenny was bursting with energy and exciting ideas. "Today's going to be the best day ever," she told Mr. Hugs. "We're going to build the biggest castle, have the fanciest tea party, and draw the most beautiful pictures." First, she dumped out all her blocks. "The castle needs a huge tower, Mr. Hugs." Blocks scattered across the floor as she built higher and higher. Then she wanted to have a tea party. "We need all the dolls, Mr. Hugs." "Everyone's invited." She rushed to get her dolls, leaving the blocks where they were. "Miss Rosie wants tea." Jenny chatted happily, arranging her dolls around a little table. "And Baby Belle wants a biscuit." "Oh, and we need pictures for our party." Soon her crayons were everywhere too as she drew picture after picture. The room looked like a toy shop had exploded. "Jenny, darling," Mummy appeared at the doorway, her eyes widening at the mess. "This room is getting very untidy. Shall we clean up a bit?" "Oh, don't worry, Mummy. The clean-up fairy will sort everything out tonight. She always does," Jenny said cheerfully, adding another crayon to the pile on the floor. "Well," Mummy hesitated, looking around at the chaos. Even fairies need help sometimes. But Jenny was already starting another picture. "It's okay, Mummy. Everything will be perfect tomorrow." That evening, as Mummy read their bedtime stories, Jenny noticed something different. Mummy's voice wasn't as bouncy as usual, and she kept stopping to yawn. "Sorry, sweetie," Mummy said, closing the book after just one story. "Mummy's very tired tonight. We'll read more tomorrow, okay?" "But we always read 3 stories." Jenny's lower lip wobbled. "I know, dear." Mummy kissed her forehead. "Tomorrow will be better." "Sweet dreams." Jenny hugged Mr. Hugs close, feeling a bit sad. She loved their story time, but at least her room would be clean in the morning. That night, Jenny just couldn't fall asleep. She kept thinking about the clean-up fairy. "What do you think she looks like, Mr. Hugs?" she whispered in the dark. "Maybe she has silver wings and leaves sparkles everywhere. Or maybe she has a magic rainbow wand." Just then, she heard quiet noises coming from her room, the soft sound of toys being moved and boxes being filled. Jenny's heart beat faster. The clean-up fairy was here. Very carefully, She opened one eye just the tiniest bit, expecting to see something magical. But what she saw wasn't a fairy at all. It was Mummy, still in her work clothes, quietly picking up toys from the floor. She looked so tired as she bent down again and again, putting blocks in their box, arranging dolls on their shelf, and collecting crayons one by one. Jenny watched as Mummy rubbed her back and yawned, then carried on cleaning. There were no sparkly wings, no magic wand, just her tired Mummy doing all the work. Jenny felt her tummy go tight and her heart felt heavy. She hugged Mr. Hugs so close that his bow tie got squished. "Oh, Mr. Hugs," she whispered so quietly that only her teddy could hear. "Mummy is the clean-up fairy. She's been doing it all along." The next morning, Jenny sat on her bed, looking around her tidy room with different eyes. Everything was in its place, just like always, but it didn't feel magical anymore. It felt different. "Mr. Hugs," she said seriously, holding her teddy bear on her lap, "we need to talk about something important." She looked at her shelves where the dolls sat neatly in a row. Mummy must be so tired every night, cleaning up all by herself. That's why she couldn't read more stories. Jenny thought hard for a moment. "I know what we're going to do, Mr. Hugs. We're going to be like Mummy, helpful and kind." She jumped up excitedly and found a nice box in her craft drawer. "This will be our special helper box." She spent time decorating it with star stickers and pretty drawings. Then she asked Mummy for some paper and carefully wrote her first ever clean-up list. Blocks go in the blue box, dolls sit on their shelf, books in the reading basket, crayons in their box, and clothes in the purple hamper. "See, Mr. Hugs," Jenny showed him proudly. "Now we know exactly what to do." That afternoon, Jenny tried something she'd never done before. After she finished building a tower with her blocks, she didn't rush off to get another toy. "Come on, Mr. Hugs," she said, picking up the first block. "Let's see how fast we can get these back in their box." She made a game of it, pretending each block was a racing car zooming into its garage. "Vroom, this red one is super fast." When she finished drawing pictures later, she looked at her crayons scattered across the table. Usually, she would just leave them there, but now... "Time for the crayon parade, Mr. Hugs." She lined up the crayons like little soldiers. "March, march, march right into your box." It was actually fun. Jenny discovered she liked knowing where everything was. When she wanted her favourite blue crayon, she knew exactly where to find it. "Look, Mr. Hugs," she said proudly, showing him her tidy drawing table. "We did it all by ourselves." That evening, Jenny heard Mummy's footsteps coming up the stairs for bedtime stories. She sat on her bed, excited and a bit nervous. Mummy stepped into the doorway and stopped suddenly. Her eyes went wide as she looked around the room. "Jenny?" Mummy gasped. "What? How? Did you do this?" Everything was in its proper place. The blocks were stacked neatly in their box. The dolls sat happily on their shelf. All the crayons were sorted by colour, and even Jenny's clothes were in the hamper. Jenny smiled shyly. "I'm the clean-up fairy now, Mummy, just like you." "Like me?" Mummy looked confused. Jenny ran to give her a big hug. "I saw you last night. You're not just Mummy. You're my clean-up fairy, but you don't need to do it alone anymore. I can help too." Mummy's eyes got a bit sparkly with tears, but she was smiling the biggest smile Jenny had ever seen. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, hugging Jenny tight. "You've made me so happy." That night, Mummy wasn't yawning at all. She read 3 whole bedtime stories, doing all the funny voices that Jenny loved. They snuggled close under the duvet, giggling together at all the silly parts. The next morning, Jenny found something special on her pillow. a pretty note written in Mummy's swirly handwriting. To my wonderful helper. Thank you for being so kind. Love, Mummy. Next to it was a small box of sparkly star stickers for her cleanup list. Now, every time Jenny tidies her room, she feels a warm, happy glow in her heart. It's not quite the same as fairy magic. It's even better. It's the special feeling of being helpful and making Mummy smile. And Mr. Hugs? Well, he still sits in his special place on Jenny's bed, wearing his red bow tie proudly. After all, he's the very best clean-up helper a girl could have. We hope you enjoyed the clean-up fairy and Jenny's special discovery. Sometimes the most magical moments happen when we choose to help others. Why not try being a clean-up helper in your own home? You might discover, just like Jenny did, that helping others feels better than any fairy magic. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, don't forget to share the story with your friends and subscribe to our magical podcast. As the story ends and the children close their eyes, they enter a world where anything is possible, and then they dreamed.